All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the next webinar in our Connections Food Safety Lunch and Learn webinar series. I'm excited to hear from Lisa Benton from the North Carolina Department of Ag and Consumer Services Meat and Poultry Inspection Division. As a reminder, this webinar series is part of a larger project. It is indeed a 3-year project where we are indeed trying to connect our food industry stakeholders with the right people so that we can better inform those individuals who have food safety questions, perhaps regulatory questions, so that they're introduced to the right people in their field. Also, in addition to the webinar series, we are developing a food safety repository website that is sort of hopefully a one-stop shop for templates, resources that you can use to improve your food safety management systems, as well as in-person training that will be provided throughout the state. So again, thank you for joining us. And as a reminder, we do have 2 upcoming webinars next week and the following week that get into the fine print, registration, exemptions, licenses. And the spring webinar series will conclude on May 31st with a deeper dive into food labeling and some of those components of allergen management. All right, thanks again for joining us today. And Kate, I'll hand it off to you for logistics.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. As you see up here, a few logistics. If we can ask everyone to please keep your microphones on mute while Lisa is presenting for us. If you have any immediate questions, feel free to throw them into the Q&A. We'll be keeping an eye on that and addressing what we can, or we'll save those questions until our live session at the end. At the end, we will have that live session. Go ahead, feel free to turn on your camera, unmute yourself, ask those questions for Lisa. But also, if you have your phone available, we will be having some QR codes that'll take you to our North Carolina Department of Agriculture resources. So feel free to have your phones ready to be able to utilize those QR codes. So without any further waiting, I'm very happy to welcome Lisa Benton to our webinar series. Lisa is the Technical Assistance Manager with the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services for the Meat and Poultry Inspection Division. After earning a bachelor's in science and animal science from North Carolina State University, she began her career with the department as an in-plant inspector. She's worked as a field trainer, technical trainer, and the training supervisor prior to accepting the technical assistance manager position in 2017. In this role, she is the point person for answering inquiries from individuals interested in starting a meat and poultry business in North Carolina. She also manages the division's training staff, State Food Safety Assessment Program, at least equal to USDA program, and the State Microbiological Sampling Program. So without waiting any longer, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Lisa, you are welcome to share your desktop, and I'll pass the mic over to you.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks for having me here to present this information. One of the things that I do is, provide information to people wanting to start businesses. So this is a great opportunity to share my wealth of knowledge with others. As Kate said, I am the Technical Assistance Manager, and I know that's a mouthful there. It does come with a lot of responsibilities, so let's move right on into this presentation here. So we are one of 29 states across the country that have a meat inspection program. In those states that do not have a program, USDA Food Safety Inspection Service is solely responsible for providing that inspection. But here in North Carolina, we're able to provide inspection alongside of the USDA. Our agency is 118 employees, so that includes our in-plant inspectors, our area supervisors, veterinarians, compliance officers, trainers, and support staff. So it does take an army of us out there to make sure that we are implementing this program meeting those equal to requirements to the USDA. Our headquarters is in downtown Raleigh, but our employees are actually stationed out there from Murphy to Manio, as the song goes. So we're all across the state providing this in service. So for our mission, we protect the health and welfare of our consumers. We enforce those federal and state laws, rules, regulations, and policies to ensure that all meat and poultry products distributed to the consumer are wholesome, unadulterated, and properly labeled. So basically, so the consumers can have confidence that the products they're purchasing are safe for their consumption. So our jurisdiction is the red meat slaughter and or further processing establishments and poultry further processing establishments within the state of North Carolina. That could be plants that apply a state mark of inspection, or under our Talmadge-Aiken agreement with the USDA, could apply a federal mark of inspection. We also have jurisdiction over facilities that slaughter and or process meat or poultry products and animals for an individual's own raising, for their own consumption. This is what we call our custom exempt facilities. We also register meat and poultry handlers, and we'll get into that a little bit later about what those are. But we register those meat and poultry handlers and review poultry exempt operators as well. Just a little bit about what we did in last year. Our inspectors inspected 206 million pounds of red meat, a little over 63 million pounds of poultry products. We do also inspect the fish that fall under the classification of sulfuriforms, which is the majority of it is what we inspect as catfish, and we inspected almost 5 million pounds of that in North Carolina. Slaughtered a little over 13,000 cattle and calves last year, provided inspection for each one of those animals. A little under 300,000 swine, a little under 16,000 sheep, and almost 24,000 goats we provided inspection for. And out of all the animals that we inspected within the state last year, only 450 animals did not meet the requirements of being fit for human consumption. So those were condemned at slaughter. So let's move into some of the questions that we get quite often. So a lot of the questions is, when does our division get involved with the food processors? So it kind of falls back to what our jurisdiction is. If they are wholesaling those items, or if they are looking to slaughter animals to sell meat from those items, we get involved with those food processors. Otherwise, they may fall under your local health department or whatnot to provide jurisdiction for those. So then they talk about, what about a restaurant that's selling meat products to a consumer? It could be a display case that the consumers can purchase raw product and take home with them, or the restaurant also wants to take the meat product they make and retail it at a local farmer's market too. So retail products are not something that we regulate. So that's under the jurisdiction of your local health department. The restaurant, we need to speak to their health inspector for those requirements. To see if it fits within their permit. So if it's allowed under their local health department permit and the rules of the farmer's market, because I have learned that each farmer market has a little bit different set of rules. I've actually spoken to one that doesn't allow their patrons to sell meat products there at their farmer's market. But that is allowable under our rules. And as long as they maintain control of that product from the restaurant to the farmer's market, they're not hiring a third-party person to deliver it. It has to be under the control of someone that works directly for that restaurant. The products are properly labeled. They are kept at safe temperatures during transport and while at the farmer's market. And they're maintained in sanitary conditions, and that the packer's integrity is maintained. They will need to be able to provide a copy of their local health permit in case our compliance officers are coming around doing reviews, just to show that this product was produced under the permit. And at the end of the day, any products that were not sold at the farmer's market must be returned to the facility in which they were produced in for storage. So they can't go to an off-site storage or be left at the farmer's market overnight. It has to be returned to that place that it was produced at under that local health permit for storage at the end of the day. And this is a question that I do get quite often from individuals. Who needs a meat handler's license? So individuals who deal with meat and poultry products, if they're not under inspection, so they don't receive that daily inspection from our agency or from USDA, are required to register as a meat handler. Some of those examples of those firms would be door-to-door meat salesmen, farmers who have their animals slaughtered and packaged at an inspected establishment, and then sell the meats from their farm. So they have a freezer on their farm. They take the meats back to their farm to sell them there, or to take them to the farmer's market to sell. And food warehouses and distributors that store and transport meat or poultry items are required to be registered as a meat handler as well. Registered meat and poultry handlers must deal in fully labeled and packaged inspected products. So they cannot further process or repackage any of those meat or poultry products. That would all have to be done within an inspected facility. So are there other permits, license, or fees associated with making products under our jurisdiction? So if they're wholesaling the products or slaughtering those animals to sell meat from those animals, they would have to apply for a grant of inspection. So they're given, if they meet all the requirements to receiving a grant, we'll give them a conditional grant of inspection. They'll have 90 days to validate that grant and then be given a permanent grant of inspection. So there's no specific like a permit or licensings that they get. Any fees associated with that? We do not charge any fees for obtaining a grant of inspection. The only time any fee may be charged to an establishment is if they work outside of their approved hours of operations. Establishments are given 40 hours of free inspection a week, so that's 5 8-hour days. That fits within the inspector's assignment. Anything outside of those hours of operations, the establishments would have to pay for inspection to be there, to be able to apply the mark of inspection to the products. For our next question, what if I want to sell outside of North Carolina? Well, if you're an inspected establishment and you have a state grant of inspection, you apply the rhomboid inspection legends, this inspection legend at the top there. Those products can only be sold within the state. So you would need to apply for a federal mark of inspection. To the Raleigh district office here, fill out the federal grant or application and such. And then you would be able to sell outside of North Carolina with that federal grant of inspection. So the two inspection legends on the bottom are the examples of the inspection legend applied to those products that can be sold outside the state. The one on the left is for meat products, and the one on the right is for the poultry products. So we do have, like I said, that Talmadge-Aiken program that we have inspectors in facilities that can apply a federal mark of inspection. But they're still submitted their application to the district office in order to get a grant of inspection. The rules for being able to have a state mark of inspection versus a federal mark of inspection, those are all the same. The only difference is who you're submitting that application to and who has the who provides that inspection to you, whether it's their state or or under the Talmadge-Aiken or federal agreements that we have. And anybody with that federal mark of inspection could possibly export their product as well if they meet all the export requirements. So the next question is, how can a farmer's market manager ensure someone selling meat or poultry is compliant with NC laws? So if somebody approaches them and they're like, oh, I want to sell, I don't know, chicken salad, because everybody has the best chicken salad, or beef jerky, or you know, even just the simple cuts of meat that they have, they would need to be registered as that meat handler if they are not one of our inspected establishments. So the picture at the bottom there shows the top portion of our meat handlers registration. They would be given a registration number here with the date of the registration, and then a signature from one of our officials at the top, and then of course the name of their business is whatnot is there. So they should be able to provide you with a copy of this registration that shows that they are compliant with our NC laws. We also have on our website a list of registered meat handlers. That's another source to look at. Or you could contact our office and we'll be glad to look up a person and to see if they are registered with us. But this registration, every meat handler has a copy of that. Will be the easiest way to ensure that they are compliant with our laws. And meat handlers are reviewed periodically to ensure that the storage of the meat products that they have are in a sanitary, wholesome manner. So what are the requirements if I want to process non-meat products in the same facility as meat products? The short answer to this is separation by time and/or space. So we currently have several establishments producing meat or poultry products, as well as non-meat poultry products in the same facility. Some of them have separate rooms that they produce the meat products in from the non-meat products. Some of them do it within the same workspace. So that's why we have the separation by time and/or space of the product. In facilities that are producing the non-meat poultry products first, the establishment may have to conduct a complete cleanup prior to processing meat or poultry items. It just depends on their process. So if they were just doing, say, a salad first that doesn't have any meat or poultry items on it, and then they go into creating products with meat or poultry in it, the same salad. So you have like a chicken bacon ranch salad. Well, they wouldn't necessarily have to clean up in that because they're using some of those same ingredients from the non-inspected product moving into the inspected product. Whereas if they were making some type of baked goods and then moving into meat items, they would probably need to do a cleanup before doing those based on what those ingredients for their next product is moving into. So for our next one, are there specific requirements for making sausage? And I read this question and I'm like, well, there's two ways I can go with this. I can go with, the actual process for making sausage, but I'm like, yeah, probably wanting more of the regulatory side. And this is another one of those questions that I actually get quite often from people just curious, just interested. They're thinking about ways to make something, to make some money, or someone may have said, oh, yours is best, like you make it and you just serve it for a meal or something that you're preparing. So this question comes up, with various variations of different types of product like chicken salad, beef jerky. So the answer is really going to depend on who the product is going to be sold to. So if it's a retail product, it's going to be sold directly to the end consumers. Those are questions for your local health department to answer. They would be able to provide the guidance for that. But if you're going to wholesale that product, so you're going to sell it to someone who will resell it as is or further process, they would need to meet our regulatory requirements if they're only selling it within the state. If they're looking to sell it outside of the state as well, they would need to meet the regulatory requirements set forth by the USDA's Food Safety Inspection Service. But like I said before, those rules and regulations are the same. It's just a matter of who you submit that application to. We're going to look that they meet the facility requirements, sanitation requirements. They have their written HACCP systems that's supported. They have their recall plans in place prior to giving them a grain of inspection to be able to produce this product for sale. And it doesn't matter if they're making 100 pounds or 1,000,000 pounds per month. The laws require you to meet the same regulations if you're going to be wholesaling that product. I think that's all the questions I had sent to me as far as prior to the meeting, but are there any?
All right. Do we have any more questions from our audience? All right. Well, I know it is a Friday afternoon, and I'm sure we're all wrapping up last minute things for our work week. I do want to take a second. Lisa, thank you so much for being here and presenting for us and sharing all this really important information with our guests. I am going to go ahead. and just a reminder of what is next in our series. And anyone who is a guest here on our webinar today, since we are extension, our goal is always to be out there and really providing what resources, what information, what training y'all need in the industry, in your unique roles of food manufacturing and the vast network that we have here in North Carolina. I would really appreciate a few minutes if you wouldn't mind filling out this survey that I just posted in the chat. It's about 8 questions, but that's going to give us feedback as our project continues, as we move into our secondary webinar series, as well as our in-person events. But again, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for everyone who is able to join us live. I hope y'all have a great weekend and take care.
Thanks for having me, Kate.
Thank you, Lisa.